Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my 10th YouTube anniversary Q&A. Thank you so much for all the questions you submitted. I had 204 comments on the last video. So I know not all of those will be questions, but probably 150 of them are. So realistically, I'm not going to get to them all, but we will start from the top, see how far we get, and then at the end, I'll pick out some interesting ones from towards the bottom of the list. But thank you so much for all of your interaction, not just on the last video, but really over the last 10 years. So here's to 10 years. Sadly, it's not Budweiser and it's not champagne, it's Cherryade. So if ever you needed proof that secretly I'm just a 13-year-old stuck in a 56-year-old body, it's the fact that I drink Cherryade. But anyway, on to the questions. Actually, before I do that, by the time you're watching this, if you're quick off the mark and you're watching it literally as I've posted it, I've just hopefully taken off from Heathrow Airport on my way to Vegas for the trip. Just to recap, I am staying at Rio, then going down to Plaza, then moving to Resorts World and finishing the trip at New York, New York. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is spending the last night ever at Tropicana before it closes, early hours of the 2nd of April, I understand. So I'll be there the night of the 1st of April. It's going to be a great trip all round. I've been working on the intros to this vlog series, and I've put some of my favourite clips from down the years before the credits at the beginning. So hopefully you'll enjoy that little aspect as well. There's a nod to the historical vlogs before we get into the present day. But anyway, all of that will start dropping from around about the 1st or 2nd of April. So I hope you'll watch the series as it plays out. And fingers crossed for some good gaming. Okay, right, on to the questions then. First one from Big6088. What do you think the ideal amount of time and corresponding bankroll is to stay in Vegas? Well, I think that's a very individual thing. In terms of amount of time, I think that depends whether you're American or from the UK. For me personally, bear in mind the jet lag. It's not so much the travel, it's the jet lag you've got to contend with. I would say a week is the minimum I would go for. The ideal amount of time is either 9 or 10 days, purely because it allows me to a couple of days to get into the time zone and then a full week of being in that time zone. In terms of, and actually solo, that is, in terms of trips with Suzanne, I would always say 2 weeks. I love a full clear 2 weeks with Suzanne to really enjoy 2 weeks away from daily life with her. So it very much depends solo versus with Suzanne, but somewhere between 9 and 14 nights for me. And in terms of bankroll, well, whatever I can afford, really. Ideally now, I go out with $1,000 every night. Do I expect to lose that every night? Absolutely not. Would I be horrified if I lost that every night? Absolutely. But I bring that much, and I'm doing the same this trip. I bring 1,000 a night, so I'm bringing 9 grand into the States now. And that's really because if anything, if the gaming did go to shit, or I needed money for something, maybe I wanted to buy something there that was expensive, the options of actually withdrawing money out as a Brit without ridiculous charges is just not there. So I would rather travel in with as much as possible, just in case, than not having enough. So I take 1,000 a day. That's for everything, not just gambling, but solo really it's just gambling. Most of the food and what have you is taken care with resorts credit these days. But there were times when I took 300 a day and was totally happy doing that. So I think it very much depends what your gambling budget is, what you're planning on doing, whether you want to see lots of shows and all that type of thing. Maybe if you want to do the Grand Canyon, which might be very expensive. But for me, it's 7 to 10 nights and $1,000 a night for everything, though. Sean Harrison says, where did you get your jumper from? This is the jumper I wore in the last video. It's very Vivienne Westwood. Well, it would be, Sean, because it's a Sex Pistols official jumper from a couple of years back from their store. So I don't know if they still sell them. But I guess they'll probably restock them maybe this winter. Question about Vegas. In the years you've been going, what do you think are the things that have gotten progressively worse in Vegas? Progressively worse. I don't think Vegas has got progressively worse. I love it just as much now as I did from the first day I was there, probably for differing reasons and differing things. But in terms of got worse, the gambling on the slots in terms of the amount that you're expected to gamble has got progressively worse. The days when I used to take $300 a night out in $20 notes, that's gone. You know, now it's $1,000 and $100 notes. So whereas I was feeding machines with $20 bills, I'm now feeding machines with $100 bills. So that has got progressively worse. You know, the days of the 75-cent max bet, 125 max bet on the Red Hot Fusion, for example. If you look at now the latest machine, the Huff and Even More Puff, which I will come on to a bit later on, you know, the minimum bet on dimes is $6. So that has got progressively worse. And I think in terms of the actual gambling, you're almost expected to invest quite a few hundred before you have even the ability to win it back and then go up money. It seems to me, and this isn't just me. You know, I watch a lot of slot channels, and you very rarely seem to win off the bat. You know, you're expected to invest heavily, and from there you might crash and burn, or you might come back strongly and win. So the days of sort of dipping in, dipping out aren't really there anymore. Most games are chasing games. Most games you need to invest. So I think that's really what I would say. Soul Walrus says, sometimes you talk about switching between two denominations of bet when you're on a machine. Do you do this per button press or a set amount of money stroke spins? Yeah, this is literally per button press. Soul Walrus, nice name. So literally I will put 100 in and I will do 50 cents with this hand. I will do $5 with this hand. And as I've always said, the beauty of that is you get every other spin at the max bet, and you will get your fair share of bonuses on the max bet if you do it often enough. Now, don't just take my word for it. And I am brutally honest when I do the videos that hit on the $5 bet. I don't tend to film the 50-cent bets, but I am honest to say I've just got a bonus at 50 cents, or I've just got two bonuses at 50 cents. I try and, if I don't show it, I try and explain exactly what has happened. So there's no sort of fudging with reality here when I do that. But if you look at Vegas Baby's recent series, which I thoroughly enjoyed, is a really good example because they show every single bonus. So they showed the 50-cent ones as well as the $5. And I think it's fair to say they were losing every night until they started the 50-cent versus $5 method. I'm not taking any credit for that, but that is actually true. And Michael did message me and say that it was paying off. And it paid off, I think, over 3 nights. Was it 3 consecutive nights? They had some really good wins. They hit some majors on it. They got some 500 balls, 250 balls, 100 balls. So it does work. And I was also watching a Hog and 2 Cent video, a members video of theirs recently. They were doing it as well, and they won on it as well. So I think if you definitely have to be in it to win it with the bigger bets. Now, if you can't afford or don't want to risk constant bigger bets, that is a good halfway house. And really, you don't have to do even $5. You could do 50 cent versus $2 if that is your upper ceiling comfortable limit. I recommend it. And Suzanne always says to me when she does lower bets, she always says to me that it just seems like a slow bleed all the time. She doesn't think she gets value for money. And for value for money, I mean, you know, where you finish the evening and whether you've won or lost, you feel like you've had a game, you know. So she is now, for the trip in the summer, she's going to try the 50 cent versus $5 method. So I will let you know how she gets on with that. I mean, she says she's unlucky. I don't believe that for a minute. But I think sometimes if you just carry on doing the $1 bets, 125, 50 cent, whatever, the bonuses, you know, 9 times out of 10 are really weak. Whereas doing this, you'll get your fair share of good ones. And then John Randall says, what was your biggest win and what was the largest bet amount? Well, my biggest win in Vegas is a modest $2,000. And that was on the piggy bank in last trip. That hand pay with the full pig was my biggest win in Vegas. Now, ironically, my biggest win on slot machine is in London when I got the perfect Diamond Queen bonus with the diamond symbols down each side with the 3 wilds. at £2 bet, I won £4,000. So what's that? $5,500, something like that. I had three for this YouTube channel. I had three things that I really wanted to achieve with it. The first one was vlogging Bridger Across America. That really was the one trip I really wanted to document, and I tried very hard to make those vlogs as good as they could be, and I think they came out perfectly. So that's one notched off my three wishes. The second one is this 10th anniversary. I wanted to get to 10 years on YouTube, and I wanted to do a 10th anniversary trip. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that all goes to plan this time. The third one, my third wish, before I finish on YouTube, is to capture a grand jackpot live. I record a grand jackpot from scratch. Not all the balls in the positions and say, oh look, I've got a grand jackpot. I mean, from getting the bonus, counting it all the way up, and unexpectedly, well, it will be unexpected because I don't actually think it's probably ever going to happen to me, to hit a grand jackpot. It's happened a lot lately. Gambling Granny had one lately. I mean, it is amazing. I get messages all the time with people that have hit 10,000 plus. And that is really it. I want to hit a 10,000 plus dollar win in Vegas. Fingers crossed at some point it happens. Huh? We don't know. Okay, this is from question from Benny G472. He says, T-shirt pre-order place. Thanks, Benny. In readiness for my next Vegas trip in May. My question, do you prefer a solo trip or a Vegas trip with Suzanne? To me, they are two totally separate things. Suzanne had never been to Vegas when we met. She's not really a gambler, although you would never know that because she's on these damn My Vegas apps, morning, noon and night at the moment. She's up to about 3 million coins, I think. And we'll either, if we can't get some decent comps for Vegas with it, we're going to go on a cruise with it, we've decided. So she's obsessed with these things, and this is probably since last year. And she's definitely grown into enjoying slot gambling, and she's definitely grown into enjoying Vegas. Of course, she likes the fact it's all comped. Who wouldn't? But when I go on my own, what I like is the fact that, as with every solo traveller, you can come out of your room when you want, go back into your room when you want, sleep when you want, drink when you want, eat when you want, gamble till your heart's content, and do everything on your terms. I mean, what human being doesn't enjoy that, right? But I'm mindful of the fact that means that my trip is skewed very much into drinking, gambling, and very little eating and sleeping odd hours. When I go with Suzanne, everything is more balanced out. So we have, I get up at a reasonable time. I go by the pool for a bit. We'll have a nice lunch. We'll have a nice early evening meal. We go to a few shows. It's just far more of a regular holiday experience. And I can't say I enjoy one more than the other. I love being there with Suzanne, but I love being there solo as well. I always have, and I've been going solo to Vegas before I met Suzanne. I'm very, very lucky, really. Suzanne and I have just celebrated our 15th anniversary since our first date on the 24th of March. And one of the reasons we get on great is because we both respect the lives we had before we met each other. I would never crowd her out on things that she enjoys doing that may not involve me, and equally, she never would do the same to me. When I'm there solo, as long as I call her once a day, which I always would, it's cool. Everything's fine. So anyway, in answer to your question, roundabout way, I like them both for different reasons. I'm very much looking forward to the trip with Suzanne in the summer, though. As always, I do love our summer trips together. Linda Thompson says, how has Vegas changed in your time, and what is your favourite time in Vegas? Congratulations on your anniversary. How has Vegas changed in my time? Well, it's far more built up now than it was. I mean, even if you go back prior to 2014, when I go back to sort of the late 90s when I first started going, it was all South Strip, and then when you gone past Monte Carlo, there was very little really up until Caesars. And then once you've gone past Caesars, okay, you had Mirage and Treasure Island, but there was nothing there then until Stardust, or Frontier and then Stardust. So it was, it's a lot more built up. Slot games are, someone there's a question later which I'll answer now. Someone asks whether the slots are, do I find them boring? No, I don't find them boring. I love the slots now. I don't mind the fact that a lot of them are Lightning Link rip-offs. I don't care. I find them exciting. And I say that based on the fact that when I first started going, everything was 3-reel. And I mean 3-reel with no bonus. One of the reasons the Wheel of Fortune machines were so busy all the time was because you had that chance of the bonus on the final spin. So even if you got nothing in the first 2 reels, you were hanging on that final spin, and that was the draw really. Top Dollar the same reason. So no, how can you find slots boring when you found 3-reel games with no bonus really, really interesting at the time? So yeah, it's quite interesting that. And I do notice actually the Huff and Even More Puff game has the golden buzzsaw on the final reel. So again, you're eking out that excitement for all the reel spins, aren't you? I might get the golden buzzsaw on the final reel. And I notice the videos of that I've seen, there's an awful lot that you get 2 buzzsaws quite a lot. I'm sure they've upped the numbers of 2 buzzsaws quite a lot. Because you have the chance of the golden buzzsaw on the final reel. So anyway, yeah, that's it's quite interesting, isn't it? Sam McGrath says, do I know if MGM is still doing double free play if checking in Monday to Wednesday? I think they are, as far as I'm aware, Sam. If it's not showing, just go and see a host. They'll have a look for you. Paul Tinker says, who would you love to have in your 10-year anniversary dream group pool? You can choose anyone, past, present, friend, family, or celebrity. 1,000 buy-in, you plus 5 people. If you have time, which casino, machine, and era will you play? That's a very interesting question. And then he says, 10 years, 7.4 million views, and 424 videos deep. Couldn't be happier for all your success, Matt, and sending you happy anniversary wishes from Down Under. Bridger Down Under still needs to happen, by the way. Cheers, Paul. That's a really nice question. Thank you. 10-year anniversary dream group. Well, I would always say family. My parents are in their early 80s now. Sadly, their long haul flight days are probably behind them now. But I would love my mum, my dad, my sister, me, and Suzanne. They would be the 5. I would like to show my parents. I mean, obviously they know about my channel. They're very proud of the fact I do this channel. They think it's really cool, and I would love to take them to Vegas now and show them what it's like now. That the last time they went would have been 1999. And I would love to take them back now and show them it now and do a proper slot pool with them. It would be a lot of fun. So that would be, it would be family and me plus the 4 family members. Hoggen 2 cent question. Since you've been outed as a card counter, yes, how you doing, Hoggen 2 cent, by the way? Would you now move on to advantage slot play? And question 2, how and when did you become hooked on slots? Advantage slot play, I kind of think I'd do it in as much as I pick the maxed out majors, which I still think, even if it's a random award, you may as well play a random award which gives you the best chance of the highest amount, right? Isn't that advantage play, kind of? And I do think there are some games, the ones with the wilds and the Buffalo Ascension. I know that's considered an advantage game if you can find ones where the reels are high up. I do kind of try and do that. I like to think I do. I probably don't. But I wouldn't take it in any seriousness, really. And how and when did I become hooked on slots? So that dates back to the 80s. I used to go to a snooker club near where I lived, so a pool hall, in effect. They had £100 fruit machines, and I used to put 50s in there at 13 years old, and I won the £100 jackpot a few times. I've always loved fruit machines. I've always played them in pubs in this country. And I've said this before, but I remember when I first was looking at going to Vegas in the days of the brochures, you know, when you thumb through the brochure, and I remember seeing MGM Grand, which at the time was the biggest hotel, I think, in the world, certainly in Vegas. And it said how many slot machines were there, in the thousands, you know. And it was like, my God, can you imagine going there and just walking in and seeing all these machines? And I still get a buzz now going in and just hearing them all ring in, and I don't know, just the chances of winning that big win, you know, it's the thrill never goes away. But it dates back to around about 1983, 1984, that sort of figure. I was sort of 14, 15 at that time. And next question, user D15. For some reason, I get the users on here aren't the real names sometimes. I don't really understand it. It's been happening for a couple of trips now. Will I be visiting the Sphere? I really want to visit the Sphere. I'm not a U2 fan, so I would never have gone there to see U2. I understand the Weekend might be doing a residency there. Now, if the Weekend do a residency there, I'll go and see that. Or if it's a band I like, I will go and see them. I really want to see the Sphere. Do I want to make a special effort to go there and just have a look at the outside of it without having something going on there? I don't really see the point. But yeah, as soon as someone's on that I want to see, I will be going to see the Sphere. And then CBBR1 says, next trip you will win the grand jackpot. Well, as I've said before, I hope so. I just want to win it once before I finish with YouTube. And Tanae Merson says, my dad loved Vegas and he loved gambling. Living in San Diego, it was a quick 5-hour drive, so I grew up going to Vegas a few times a year. My brother and I loved it. I would ask what the very worst hotel experience you ever had, and in comparison, the very best. Thanks. The worst hotel experience... Some of the rooms downtown when I first started going, the plaza before it was renovated wasn't great. So just in terms of how nice the rooms were, probably the plaza in 2009, before it closed down for renovations, was rough. But in terms of the worst experience I had, it was a couple of years ago when I checked into Caesars, and you may remember, because it was on the vlog, I had booked a fountain view room in Caesars, and I wasn't Diamond then, I was one below Diamond, and I went to check in and they said, sorry, all the fountain view rooms are gone. Here's, it was a crappy room looking at an air conditioning unit, you know. And they hadn't actually, and actually I lied, they hadn't told me, they hadn't given me the right room, they just gave me the keys. And it was only when I opened the door that I realised, obviously, it wasn't the room I booked. I then went back down and they said, well, sorry, there's higher rated players than you in the property this weekend, so that's all we've got. And it was the dismissive way that this receptionist had so she literally just almost like, go away, you know, we're not interested in your sort here, you know. So that was the one that annoyed me the most. I have to say, since then, I've always had really good service from Caesars, but that's because I'm now Diamond Plus. And that does annoy me, you know, that you're literally just treating someone based on... You're not giving good customer service for good customer service sake, are you? And I think that's the way Vegas has gone a lot now. It's all on status. And that's why I think, and I will always say, you get more bang for your buck by staying downtown. And the best hotel experience... probably at Plaza. You know, as soon as I walk in there, I feel welcome. So yeah, probably at Plaza. Downtown Grand have always been very good to me as well. But it's definitely the smaller hotels where, I mean, literally these days you can check in on your app, open your room door with your app, check out on the telly or your app. and not speak to a human. And I understand a lot of people would actually find that a very good thing. But to me, I think human interaction is an important part of any travelling experience, really. So, yeah, I'm not a great fan of that, if I'm honest. And then Highwell Murray says, congratulations on 10 years, Matt. It's a great accomplishment. You must have spent thousands of hours at slot play over the last 10 years. In the immortal words of Louis Theroux, is there any skill involved? No, there isn't. Not at all. The skill, there isn't. Right, okay, there's skill in the gaming experience outside of pressing the button on the slot machine. The skill is when you're losing, try and lose as a small amount as possible, and when you're winning, try and walk away with the biggest amount possible. That's the skill. So the skill is really resisting temptation, both ways. And that is why, as I always say, free drinks will always be free drinks when you're gambling in Vegas. Billy Bob 24680 says, Matt, congratulations. I can't say I've been with you since 2014, but definitely 2017-ish. You're one of the best, if not the best, Vegas YouTubers out there. Thanks, Billy Bob. I remember watching your videos preparing for my first ever Vegas trip, which I took the day after I turned 21. My question is, what's your worst and best gambling trip, strictly speaking, from a financial stroke winning standpoint? What years, how much did you end up winning or losing? And what was your strategy on the losing trip to help mitigate loss and keep having fun? Looking forward to many more years of content. Yeah, that's an interesting one, actually. It's not so much about purely the amount of winning and losing, because, you know, my bet levels have steadily increased, you know, during that time. There was a trip in 2003 where I'd come back from a trip in 2002 where I couldn't stop winning. And probably in terms of over a 2-week period, I won, I think. It was the days when I was only doing 75 cents a press. So you've got to bear in mind a jackpot then would have been $250 probably. But I won, from memory, it was every night bar 1 or 2 over 2 weeks. I then went back the following year and stayed at Luxor. And again, I was still only betting 75 cents a press. But I literally couldn't win a thing for any of the 7 nights I was there. It was truly dreadful from a gambling perspective. But it's a holiday, you know, so I can't say I would ever not have fun even if I lost. You know, I always go back to the trip with Colin, which actually was one of the worst gambling trips for losing. We ended up laughing on the bridge at Cosmo because we kept going back to the safe. So you know, there's no mitigating fun. It would always be fun because it's a trip where it's a holiday. So I'm not taking it out of, you know, money that hasn't been put aside for anything else other than having fun. You know, so it didn't really matter in terms of actual. You know, the amount I ended up losing was probably Bridger across America. Obviously, it was 3 weeks, and I lost, what was it? 12, somewhere between 12 and 15 grand over that time. Obviously, the YouTube earnings, I think, as I said, definitely mitigated that loss. So in terms of mitigation, the YouTube actually the YouTube channel in general is a good vehicle for mitigating losses. And if you look at this trip now, I would say, all things being equal, I would expect to lose somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 while I'm there. Could be more, but that would be my best guess at this point. But I would expect to earn around about $2,000 to $2,500 on YouTube. About sort of 1,800 quid, something like that. So that in itself mitigates the loss. So, you know, you can see with some of the bigger slot channels why they gamble as they do, because they're going to get a hell of a lot more money than I would make, obviously. But YouTube does mitigate that loss to a degree. So that's probably my answer. And then JKQC says, congrats, Matt. How's Colin? Any plans for another buddy trip? Well, Colin's great. Colin and I, Colin's my best mate, as you all know. For those of you that have only started watching recently, he came everyone always goes on about Colin because he came on a very memorable trip in January 2018. We had a great time. Some of the best vlog footage came from that trip. We sort of bounce off each other very well. I speak to him every single day, and that's not an exaggeration. We tend to speak to each other via voice notes on Facebook Messenger. He's great. He's doing very well. And I would love him to come to Vegas, and hopefully one day he will. That's all I can say. It will happen at some point for sure. Maybe his 10th anniversary from 2018, so maybe 2028. Maybe I'll work on him for 2028 for the Colin return 10 years later. Okay, Andrea Osland. How you doing, Andrea? I've been watching from the start, and I met Andrea. It was, what was it, 2019, Andrea? I've been watching from the start and can't believe it's been 10 years. Finally got to meet you in 2019. There you go. My question is, other than gambling, what is the most exciting thing you've done in Vegas? Keep up the good work, and I can't wait for the next set of vlogs. Well, for me personally, and I know he's not for everybody, but for me personally, being a Morrissey fan, the Morrissey residency in 2022, was it? Yeah, I think it was 2022, was wonderful. To stay at Caesars and come out of your room, go down the lift, come out and literally walk into the concert arena 3 times in a week and see, if not my favourite singer, certainly in my top 3 favourite singers, was wonderful. That was really, really, really life-affirming. That is why I go to this city. I've never seen another artist that I've liked to that degree. Probably Blondie's the closest. I saw them at Hard Rock in the early 2000s. That was probably my most exciting thing. And I know some people will say, oh my God, is that it? But yeah, it was seeing Morrissey in Caesar's Palace in my favourite city. Wonderful. I mean, again, you know, I could go to London and it wouldn't give me the thrill of seeing him in Vegas that seeing him in Vegas did. And John Bon Donegan, how you doing, John Bon, says, does that first Budweiser taste as good as the one from 10 years ago? Yes, it does. And someone asked me, actually, further down this list of questions, how is my Budweiser drinking ability now from 10 years ago? I've always been able to drink beer until it literally spouts out of my ears. And aside from being a bit dehydrated, I don't get hangovers from drinking beer. So I can really just drink Budweiser all day, every day, with a sort of snooze in between 2 sessions probably. Just as well as I could when I was 18 years old, probably better. So yeah, I don't know. I have a very good ability at drinking beer, but there is a but here. If I mix it with any sort of shots, I did have a trip where I started drinking Fireball shots. You know when you can get the 2 cans of beer and they give you the free shot? So I was down in the Fireball shots. That didn't agree with me. I ended up getting a real headache after that. So I soon knocked that on the head. And if I buy those big Budweiser cans now, I don't actually take the shot. I just leave it at the shop. But yeah, my Budweiser drinking abilities have not waned at all over the years. And actually, a friend of mine, Bobby G, hi Bobby G, if you're watching, he's I think he's been on a diet and a health kick, and he went to Vegas and didn't drink at all. As sad as it sounds, I'm not sure I could do that. I associate it with drinking as much as gambling. I mean, I'm sure I could, because I mean, I used to say when I smoked, I couldn't see myself never smoking again, and I managed to give that up quite easily in the end. So I guess if I had to for medical reasons, I could easily do it. But yeah, I mean, the gambling and the drinking go hand in hand. You know, it is gambling and drinking. I couldn't do one without the other. Really couldn't. And TG Lip 24 says, here's a weird one for you. This might be a question for Vegas Baby 2, but I'm intrigued by the accents in the different parts of the UK, as we have here in the US. To your ear, does Michael and Lindsay have different accent to you, and do they use some different words to you? Are parts of the country known for different accents? Absolutely. In fact, I think, I mean, I probably would say it because I'm British, but yeah, I mean, certainly if you just take England as a country, I mean, there's so many different accents. I mean, I don't really have one. I'm more Thames Valley, if you like, which is a bit of a nondescript area. But if you look at Michael and Lindsay are from the northeast of England, and there's differing accents there. For me, I always think the most pronounced is the Manchester accent versus the Liverpudlian accent. Bearing in mind the two cities are only 30 odd miles apart. I mean, they are literally chalk and cheese, those accents. So if you can look those accents up, Manchester versus Liverpool, I would think even someone from America will see a massive difference in the way they speak. And then if you go down to the Midlands, the Birmingham accent is massively different. And then down to the southwest, the sort of Cornish accent is massively different. And then, of course, in central London, you've got the real Cockney accents, which are massively different. So yeah, I think we have it in exactly the same way as you do in the US. And one thing I did notice doing my Bridger Across America trip was how the accents did differ. When we went from sort of Atlantic City and then down to Biloxi and then across, you did see the whole change in accents all the way. It was quite interesting for me, actually. Okay, Lewis Winspur asks, Matt, you get asked to help design a new casino, but it's got to be a theme. What would you build and which existing property would it replace? That's a great question, Lewis. Right, now, actually, I was speaking the other day to somebody about, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but the Hilton, so the Westgate as is now, but the Hilton used to have the Space Quest casino. Does anyone that's watching this remember that? And it was literally just outside the Star Trek experience. And it was it was like a spaceship, in effect, all metallic and silver. And it was a really, really good slots area. Definitely the best slots area in the whole of Vegas for a time. And this would have been sort of the late 1990s, early 2000s. And I used to play the Star Wars trilogy slot machine there, which had a big Death Star at the top, and it used to spin round and show you your award amounts. And it was one of the early video slots, but it was a fantastic slot machine, and playing it there in the Space Quest casino was a real thrill. And I used to stay at Hilton a lot in those days. So I would say if I could have a themed, bear in mind you're near Area 51 and everything, I would go for a space-themed casino, and I would knock down Harrah's to build it. So I've never been a great fan of Harrah's. I think it's a dark, dowdy, sort of slightly depressing interior, really. I don't often go in there, but I do love the Link. So if you had the Space Casino next to the Link, that would be great. So let's have a space-themed casino smack bang in the centre of the Strip. David Barker, how you doing, David? Well done on 10 years of fantastic vlogs. Enjoy your upcoming trip and have a blast. Really looking forward to the new series. As vlogs go in Brucey mode, yours are my favourite. Thank you, David. Maybe one question. When you're constantly filming, does it in any way take away the enjoyment of a trip as you don't have as much time for your own holiday? All the best, David from Ipswich. And I know David's an Ipswich Town fan who smashed my team Sheffield Wednesday 6-0 the other day. So I'm sure you enjoyed that one, David. And good luck in the Premier League, as I think you're on your way there. Okay, yeah, in terms of that, no, not at all. I would not do the vlogging if I didn't enjoy it, as I mentioned before. It's so much intertwined with the holiday now, and I've got the process nailed down to such a degree that I don't think it takes away from anything. If anything, it enhances the trip. I enjoy it that much. I can understand why people might think it doesn't, but you've got to bear in mind I've been on 10 years of trips now, doing it every single time, and I've never missed one. And believe me, if you to go 10 years on YouTube, having never missed a trip, and we're now coming up to trip 53, and I think it was 28 or 29 was the first trip I vlogged. So we've done 25 plus trips, around about 25 trips, vlogging them, and I've never missed a day. So that probably tells you that it's not in any way a difficulty for me. And I as I've said before how I do this. I sort of build the vlogs as I go. So once I've shot something, I sort of swipe it into the chronological order of the day, and then really the following day, all there is to do is to splice it all together, put a bit of music in, a few graphics, and it's done, and do the summary at the end, and it's done. My vlogs will never be the smartest vlogs in the world. They will never be in 4K because, well, until there's the capability to upload that quickly in Vegas, they'll never be in 4K. I'm not trying to keep up with anyone editing wise or quality wise in terms of the 4K or the flash cameras. My vlog has always been an on the go, as live as I can make it experience. I want people to feel like they're in Vegas with me, even if it's a day or so behind. That's and I started it before live streaming was a thing. So at the time, and even now, really, it's as good as live streaming because you're experiencing the trip until the final video. You're experiencing the trip while I'm still in the city. So that's the experience I try and give you. And people say, why don't you mix it up this trip and go? Someone said, why don't you mix it up and go to that place that's like it's a gaming area 15, is it, or something, or 50? No, area 15, is it? Anyway, some sort of gaming place. Why don't you do more food videos? Why don't you do more of everything that I don't do? Really, some people say, and really, that's because that's not my holiday. I am not trying to appeal to the widest audience. That's the thing. What I'm trying to do is literally just show my holiday as best I can, which is always going to be gambling heavy because fundamentally that's why I go to Vegas. I'm not trying to tailor it to gain viewers or anything like that. That's the thing. So as all I'm doing is shooting what I would be doing anyway, it's not a chore. And that's, I think when you start chasing around, there's one channel which I won't name that I noticed is on a Vegas website, and their videos, I think they're quite well known for going around lots of different places. And on this website they have the video, and then they have what I'm assuming is sort of affiliate links to every place they've visited in that particular day, so that obviously people can go to the watch their vlog and then book the restaurant, or go to the show or whatever it might be. Now that to me sounds completely like a job, and I couldn't think of anything worse. So my channel will never go down that route. I will always try and make a bit of money out of the adverts, of course. Why not? But I will never do sponsorships or anything like that. I think you're then veering it very much into a business then, and I just don't want to get involved with that. So it's always going to be fun, and it's always going to be my holiday, and it will just be me documenting my holiday, and it's no problem. Okay, next question. Haywell Murray. When was the lowest you have ever felt after a Vegas slot session, and when was the highest? The lowest I've ever felt. Right, there was one trip, and it was very early in the vlog series. I think it was 2016. And actually, interestingly, I do remember the years way better having done the vlog, because certain videos pop in my head from the years. It was the summer one in 2016, and I think I'd lost, for the first time ever, I'd lost over $500 in a night. I mean, now I wouldn't mind $500. Then that was a big deal at that point. And it was one of the ones where you put the 100 in, and I was playing Sphinx 3D, and I put the 100 in, second 100, third 100, and I remember Suzanne was sitting next to me, and she was looking at me through the corner of her eye, as if to say, hang on a minute. And I went back up to the safe, and I got another 300, and I remember going up after that, and I had no bonus. I mean, I'm used to that now. That happens quite often, a few hundred. But at that point, that was the first time that had ever happened, and I did feel gutted. Interestingly, if I remember rightly, the following day, I then won like 300 or 400 quite quickly. To me, you have to experience the downside to appreciate the upside, right? In terms of the highest I've ever felt in a slot session, I would say definitely my first hand pay on The Walking Dead, and that would have been 2019, January 2019. I hadn't had a hand pay at that point since 2007. And I remember I ran back to Downtown Grand. It was at Plaza. Ran back to Downtown Grand to get my passport. And I could have been literally walking on air. I mean, really, I finally done it. And it was only $1,470 or something. But I'd done so many vlog series at that point and I'd come close, but I'd never hit a hand pay. So that was a real, a tick off the list of things I wanted to do, certainly for the vlog and in Vegas in general, really. So yeah, that was the highest, definitely. Okay, and Chad Thompson says, over this time, many good and bad things have come and gone in Vegas. What do you miss the most that is gone now? And what is your favourite addition to Vegas? He says, thanks, and I look forward to watching your 10-year vlog series when I return from my trip to the Dominican Republic. Hi, Chad. So, what I miss that is gone now is I'm always going to say the same, Stardust. I miss the Stardust. Really do. Used to love that place. There's so many happy memories there. The gaming was great. It was I used to like that bar that was sort of, used to coming off the casino floor and it was sunken down as you walked out towards the swimming pool. Used to love that there. And my favourite addition to Vegas is definitely Circa. I still get a thrill going in there now, same as I did the first time I went in after the COVID. I think they've done. I think that's the perfect new resort, and yeah, without doubt, that's my favourite addition. Then Red Rock PE says, amazing, congratulations, Matt. I think if I were in your shoes, the what if would haunt me. Right? The what if I did this full time? Oh, right, okay. How much more successful could the channel be? How many more subscribers would I have? How many more comps, invites, freebies, sponsorships, massive amount of YouTube money, etc.? Does the thought of you potentially being one of, if not the most successful Vegas vlogger ever come into play, and give you any feelings that you're missing out on what could be? Wow. Red Rock PE, thank you for your your belief that could actually happen. I could never do it full time. No. Right. Number one, I'm retired. I don't want anything that's full time or takes up too much of my time. Sometimes, if you let it, the YouTube world can envelop you to such a degree, it becomes all-consuming. I used to get myself in a bit of a state about trying to keep up with all the messages I get off Facebook and Instagram and email and YouTube and everything while I'm there, thinking that somehow if I didn't reply, I'm letting people down. And you come to the point where, and this going back to the Suzanne, the Suzanne trips. There was one trip in particular where it ended up spoiling the trip for Suzanne. So I will not allow that to happen ever again. And we had a serious chat about it when we got back, and we both agreed that this can't continue. It's not Suzanne's decision to have a YouTube channel. She wants to go there for her summer holiday. So now I don't get my knickers in a twist quite so much about, when I'm in Vegas, I will produce the video. My commitment to you as the viewer is I will produce the videos and I will upload them on a timely basis. They may not be the same time every day, but they will be, roughly speaking, one a day. I can't keep up with everything else. I wouldn't want to keep up with everything else. It just becomes too much. I don't want the channel to be any more successful than it is. I don't really want any more subscribers than I've got. I'm not interested in sponsorships. The money I get is fine, and it helps limit the losses, as I said earlier. And I don't really think I would ever be the most successful Vegas vlogger anyway. So all in all, I'm very happy, more than happy, that I've managed to get to this point in the channel lifetime, if you like, and people are still watching. So no, I don't lie awake at night thinking, "Ooh, where can I take it now?" Quite the opposite. No, there will be new channels that will come, and there has been many new channels that will come and absolutely blitz me off the planet with views. YouTube really is a platform for it's for the it's for people in their 30s and 40s, isn't it? Not for a 56-year-old. They're very much trying to push the vertical streaming, to sort of buy in with the TikTok crowd. I will never be on TikTok. I will never do vertical streaming, and I quit Twitter because it became quite toxic. So I'm now just on Facebook and Instagram. I've got everything set up exactly how I like it. So why would I change? To me, it's your passion and fun way more than anything that may be more of a full-time thing. It's not all about that. If people want to do that, great. Good luck to them. I'm not one of them. Okay, Colin Graham says, "Hi Colin, how you doing? Apart from the Stardust, which is the one casino that's no longer there that you miss," he says for him it's the old O'Shea's followed by the Riviera. I agree with you about O'Shea's. The old O'Shea's was really good. I think people that go in there now thinking it's pretty good because obviously the Irish theme and everything. The original O'Shea's was way better. The Riviera as well was great. It was a bit sad towards the end though. And actually, talking about the Tropicana now, everyone's getting all sort of nostalgic about Tropicana, aren't they? Even me, a little bit. But really, I look at the Riviera very similar as I'm looking at Tropicana now, in that it wouldn't be closing if people had made it a roaring success. And people were fed up with the Riviera and the fact it was a bit down at heel for a good number of years before it actually ended up closing. So I think if you're not careful, you can look back at properties with rose-coloured spectacles. The only one that it wasn't like that was Stardust because it closed when it was still doing really well. It never naturally petered out. But for me, it would probably be Aladdin, and that's the second incarnation of Aladdin. I really like that theme, the Aladdin theme. I thought it was perfectly done. I stayed there a couple of times. It was great, and it just never took off. There was a lot of that was to do with the way the entrance was structured, in that it didn't sort of funnel people in. It funneled them past. And I remember them saying at the time, because of the structure of the sidewalk, it literally was a sidewalk, and everyone just looked at it as they walked down the strip towards MGM Grand. But that I really liked that particular theme, and I do miss that one. Okay, and Mex Yoda 72 says, "Congrats on 10 years. Question: if you could give 2014 Matt one piece of advice or Vegas-related tip that would make all future Vegas trips easier or more enjoyable, what would it be?" Use your player's card. I never started using my player's card until relatively recently, probably 2018, 2019. I always used to say, I jump around casinos too much to make that worthwhile. Wrong. I used to pay for rooms up until 2017, 2018 time. So yes, it was that. I should have done this from day one, 100%. If you play the game in Vegas, and there was a lot of questions about, do I think Vegas is too expensive now? No. If you play the game and you use your card and you max on the comps, and you do everything, you get everything that is free or discounted because you're a gambler. As long as you manage the gambling effectively, it's still a really cheap place, certainly for someone from the UK to go for a week or two. No doubt about it. Is there more nickel and diming than there was when I first started going? Absolutely. But if you're a gambler, there is still value to be had, I think. And Cat Doog 143 says, you can only stay in one hotel, strip or downtown. Which hotel do you choose and why? Okay, so my strip hotel, it would be Cosmo for the balcony. I just think the rooms are lovely there. I love the balcony. So that would be that. And also your strip central there, which again, I guess, that's... I mean, I tend to choose South Strip because of my past and being fond of that end of the strip. But really, most people want to be centre strip. So the Cosmo would be my choice. And downtown, I would say... Well, I would say Circa probably. If I could pick any hotel, it would be Circa. The rooms are great. It still looks fabulous inside. The upkeep on it is great. So yeah, and I like Stadium Swim. Okay, Cindy Navro says, over your last 10 years, which casino have you fallen the most in love with that surprised you? And which casino have you fallen most out of love with? And Cindy says, our 3-year-old daughter loves dancing to your intro music. Thank you, Cindy, and I'm glad she enjoys that. Casino I've fallen most in love with, well, it would be both Aria and Cosmo. Those that have watched from the beginning will remember when I first went in, I actually went into Aria and Cosmo for the first time while I was vlogging. And I wasn't impressed. For me, it was all about downtown. I found them all a bit sort of soulless and new. And I think I was wrong with that opinion. I like both Aria and Cosmo now. Smart places, great slot selection, good food options, just smart, decent resorts, And I think I was put off with the newness of everything and, old Vegas is going and, just as anyone does who has been going to a place for a length of time and it starts changing. You to a degree, you sort of rebel against it a little bit. And I think I rebelled against those resorts a little bit initially. And I think probably once I embraced them, I then ended up embracing every bit of change in Vegas. And now I don't really moan about it too much. And in terms of casino, I've fallen out of love with most. Probably Treasure Island. I mean, that place, I really liked it in there. And I used to make a point of going in all the time. But to me, they've done nothing with it. It's a mishmash, as I said on my strip walk last trip. So yeah, that would definitely be Treasure Island. Simon Pratt says, I love the vlogs, especially when you get out and about and do your walkabouts and strip walks. Will you be taking a trip to see Durango this adventure? Also, by the time you have been going to Vegas, what would you say has been the best and worst Vegas editions? I think I've already answered this. And what casino resort were you most sad to see disappear? I think I've answered the second question. Will I be taking a trip to see Durango? Probably not this trip, if I'm honest. I'm not that bothered. Not really. I know, sorry. But not especially. If I'm sort of out that way, it's out by Red Rock, is that right? If I'm out that way, I'm sure. Probably when I'd have to hire a car probably, and I don't really want to get a cab over there. So if I've got a car and I'm on a day trip, I'll pop in at some point. But it's not really on my my radar too much. Okay, Paul McCrory says, Matt, you are the reason I had the balls to visit Vegas solo in 2022. Excellent. And he says he loved it as well. Well done, Paul. I would always say try and go Vegas solo at least once in your life. And if it's not Vegas, try and go somewhere solo for once in your life for a period of time. I think taking solo time out from life in general is a really positive thing you can do. And if you could travel to Vegas for 3 nights with any 3 celebrities, dead or alive, who would they be? Yeah, well, I mean, mine would all be dead celebrities, and they would. I would probably choose to go to Vegas with Alex Hurricane Higgins, the famous snooker player from Northern Ireland, George Best, the football player from Northern Ireland, and who would the third one be? Probably Oliver Reed. Alex, Oliver, and George Best. Wow, that would be some trip, eh? And if you don't know who they are, look them up. They like to beer, put it that way. Roaming New Routes, how you doing, guys? You just had a trip recently. I was watching your video where you were struggling to get your vlog up by the Saturday. Yeah, I mean sometimes people don't understand the frustrations of the administrative side of vlogging, do they? He said, they say congratulations on 10 years, quite an achievement. My question is, if you got stuck in a loop and had to relive the same day over and over, what would your ideal day in Vegas consist of? Think Groundhog Day. Where would you have breakfast, lunch, dinner, gamble, and what would you do? Well, actually, as I said before, the eating would be secondary. My ideal Vegas day is actually waking up on day one proper. Okay, so you've just landed from Vegas. You know, you're slightly jet lagged. You wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and you go out and you have the whole trip stretching ahead of you. You have, in my case, $1,000 in your pocket to spend however you want to spend it, and you go out early. And you start, say, at Mandalay Bay or wherever your base is, and you walk all the way up the strip, and you just play and drink until your heart's content. I know it sounds simple, but that is, and particularly that first day where you're nowhere near going home, and you can smell that Vegas smell, and you can hear those Vegas sounds. That is almost perfect. If you can win while you're doing that, even better. But that would be it. I could quite happily have a Groundhog Day of waking up on the first full day in Vegas and doing that in a loop. Absolutely. Whether it's downtown or on the strip, doesn't matter. That to me would be my real thrill. And Simon South, how you doing, Simon South? Brit bloke in Vegas. I've met Simon. He's a great guy and a great channel. Congrats on the 10 years, Matt. Question: if you go back in time and see any show or concert that's ever taken place in Vegas, which one would it be? Sinatra, Elvis, Rat Pack, Beatles, or even Evel Knievel jumping the Caesar's fountains, or any other? Cheers, Vlogfather. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, I would love to go back. I mean, to be honest, I think you've listed it. It would be Sinatra and Elvis. I would like to go back to the 60s, downtown in the 60s, and sort of see Sinatra, or, I mean, I don't know whether he even played downtown, but I think downtown, particularly in the 60s, was, it just looked fantastic to me. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see downtown without the canopy. Whether it was 60s, 70s, or 80s, I'd like to see downtown without the canopy. But Sinatra would be... I'd love to see Sinatra in Vegas. And Elvis, if I had to pick between the two, I'd probably go for Elvis at the Hilton in the 70s. That would just be... just to transport yourself back. Even if it's just for that one show. God, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah, that would be it. Elvis. I'm going to go for Elvis. A very close second would be Sinatra. And then Risk It for the Chocolate Biscuit. How you doing, mate? He said, excited for the coming decade. What is the overall net result from gambling over the past 10 years of Vegas trips? Wow, I mean, I've no idea. I used to put aside my annual bonus from banking for the trips. And my bonus used to be about 10 grand. I mean, last year I probably spent 20,000, maybe slightly more. So, I mean, over the last 10 years, God knows. God knows. Somewhere between... I mean, I don't tend to lose huge amounts. I mean, I often come back having lost sort of 3-4 grand, 2-3-4 grand. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I would say maybe in the last 10 years, 50 grand, 60 grand, I guess. That's for everything. Flights, food, drink, not just gambling, everything. Okay, Calpsy. Again, apologies that I can't get everyone's questions. I mean, it's we've already had quite a while, but I just want to get good cross selection. I hope that's okay, or cross section, I should say. Calpsy says, being from the UK but only going once a year, I'm interested to see what comps you get and how you fly. I go for 3 weeks at a time now because all my rooms are comped and I get great free play and resort credit too. It would be rude not to. I stay at MGM Properties Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then go to Caesars Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and repeat this 3 times. I also save up all my Avios to only travel business class, but this year I'm flying first class into LA and then on to Vegas. Question is, why don't you go for longer, and what comps do you get? I know you don't fly business class. Why? I've not flown economy for over 10 years as the flight is horrendous. You must pay 700 plus for economy or premium economy. I'm 800 plus Avios to sit in business. Interested to find out what you think of this. Well, I do the same thing with the MGM versus Caesars, as you probably know. I would always go for more regular trips over longer trips. So if you offered me 1 month in Vegas in one go, or 4 1-week trips to Vegas in a week, 4 1-week trips to Vegas in a year, I would always go for the 4 1-week trips to Vegas in a year. So that's the reason. For me, I'd much rather say go January, April, August, October, something like that. That would be my ideal Vegas year, if you like. In terms of flying business class, well, I don't like BA. Suzanne will never fly BA again. I'm now Virgin, but I do kind of do what you do. I've got the Virgin credit card, the Plus one, where you have to pay 160 a year for it. And the last 3 trips have all been reward flights, where I've only paid the tax. So I think the tax is now about 300 and something. And I've gone premium economy most of the time. And when it's economy, it's always in an exit seat. I had a upgrade option with my reward card for around about now, which I could have upgraded to business class, but I've decided instead to buy Susanna a free ticket when she comes in the summer. So yeah, I think I've pretty much got not dissimilar options. I agree with you that economy now, once you get used to premium economy, is quite difficult for that length of time. So at the moment for the flight I'm on as we speak, I'm booked into economy, but there's lots of space for premium and economy delight. So I will be upgrading to one of those for sure between now and then. So yeah, that's it. I think we get reasonable deals. I'll be honest, I don't tend to look at the flight comps like I do with the Vegas comps. I max out on the Vegas comps. The flight comps, I've just started doing it really in the last couple of years with this Virgin credit card. And we're now loyal to Virgin as a result of that, really. Okay, Jeff Gallia. Okay, this is an interesting one. Hi, Matt. I love the videos. My question is, I've noticed over the years there seems to be some bad blood between other vloggers and yourself. Why do you think this is? No, I mean, this sort of dates back to 2019, 2020 time. I would say 2019 and early 2020 for me were quite a toxic time for me in general. I was locked in an HR dispute with my employer. I didn't know what the future held with that. I was going through various grievance procedures. It was quite tough. And add to that, I was in what I sort of considered to be a fairly toxic, sort of Vegas-y type social media environment. You know, we had this podcast thing, and it was a bit toxic. I just don't think some of the people on the podcast really had my best interests at heart. That's really what it boils down to. I've got nothing against them as people, but I think basically YouTube pretty much it all exploded around about 2019, and everyone was sort of thrown together, and I probably got involved with people that I didn't really have anything in common with, and I probably shouldn't have done. And probably because of my situation in general, I was quite short-tempered. I would admit that. So I probably reacted to things that I wouldn't react in the same way now. Having said that, I don't necessarily think, as I said, that these people really have my best interests at heart. So that was it. But that's it's only been that. It's really, I mean, the issues I get now from, you know, YouTube hate, if you like, all comes from one Facebook group, really, as it always has. And it probably will never stop. If anyone's got an issue with me, they tend to post it on this Facebook group that I'm not a part of. You know, it's all fairly silly, really. I mean, even the last trip, some guy posted that he hoped that Suzanne would leave me by the time I got back from the trip, because in theory I was leaving her grieving on her own. I mean, I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. Suzanne, for what it's worth, not that I have to explain myself to anybody, but Suzanne was actually the one that told me to go. You know, we dealt with an awful lot, and she was going back to work. She said, look, take yourself off to Vegas and get your head together. So it was actually done with her blessing, and with her, she almost pushed me on the plane, actually. But and one of the things you learn with YouTube is that people will take the smallest thing you say in isolation, and they will literally build your whole character around something you might have said. And it's happened a number of times, and it's, yeah, I've never seen. I think the world we live in now is incredibly judgmental, and I think ever since, in terms of the UK, ever since Brexit in 2016, or the Brexit vote in 2016, and I think with politics being very divisive these days, everyone either hates something or absolutely loves something. I think that sort of world where you either agree to differ, or you look at something you don't particularly like, so you just move on. It's almost like that's not really an option anymore, is it? People almost have to have their say, which I just don't understand that mentality, really. I mean, I watch a lot of vlogs. I mean, I'll be honest, most of the vlogs I watch these days tend to be on physical media, like DVDs, Blu-rays, films, vinyl records, hence all that stuff behind me. I'm very much into all of that, probably more than Vegas in a lot of ways. So I watch a lot of vloggers. Planet CHH is my favourite, by the way. Planet CHH is an incredibly good, very skilled vlogger, and I know he's trying to move away from purely doing horror vlogs, or horror related physical media vlogs, but he's very good at all of it. So I watch a lot of him and watch a lot of others. But if I watch a channel that specialises in that type of thing, and I don't like it, I don't go in the comments and start slagging it off, you know, or go. I just don't understand the mentality of doing that, really. The only time I've ever had anything to say about other channels is where I feel they've been doing things for the wrong reasons, and even then, I probably should just keep my nose out. I've learned very much now not to say anything. But like I mentioned earlier, you know, if channels are doing things for subscribers or for what I see as the wrong reasons, I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to call them out on it these days. It's pointless. So yeah, I mean, that was probably, there was one mistake I made calling out one channel I felt was doing a video for subscribers. That was a bit silly, actually. I shouldn't have done that. That was the only thing I did wrong. In 10 years isn't bad, right? The rest of the issue, which was one, I say, from one area, was really down to difference in personalities, I think, more than anything else. Okay, so we're gonna finish this up now. I'm just going to grab a couple of really interesting questions that stood out to me when I was reading these earlier. And this one from Edda Z 9075. As a recovering gambling addict, I like to watch videos like yours to get my buzz from someone else risking their money, and it works very well. My question for the Q&A is, how do you keep your own gambling under control, and have you ever felt it slipping away from you? I think that's a really, really interesting question. I've had, down the years, I've had messages from people that said, I've watched you, and I just wanted to let you know I'm not watching you anymore. Nothing to do with anything you've said or done, but purely because I now realise I've got a gambling problem. And I don't want to watch that content anymore. So firstly, I think if you can get your buzz from watching gambling videos and it doesn't result in you going down the casino and losing your own money, I think that's a really great thing. That's a really positive thing. So I have had a lot of messages. In fact, one relatively recently, a guy that I know very well. And do I'm never bothered about losing when I'm in Vegas. In terms of slipping away from me, I get annoyed if I lose money in London. The other week we went up to Birmingham and I lost 600, I think it was. We went to Resorts World in Birmingham for Darren Jones's 50th. He's the Las Vegas couple on YouTube. Had a great night, but lost 600, and I thought, oh, that's 600 that could be used for Vegas. As it turns out, I ended up winning it back with Steve, a mate of mine in Empire, a few weeks later. I try and limit the London casino visits, because I think that would be the slippery slope if I did that too often. And that's not because I can't necessarily afford to go. I don't want to get into a routine of... Well, it's a bit like saying, I could quite happily go down the pub every night, but, you need to limit it to a degree. So I'm going to go down twice a week rather than 7 nights a week. It's the same principle. It doesn't mean to say you necessarily have a gambling problem or a drinking problem, but you could have if you did it every day, So I try and manage it more that way. I think because I only go to Vegas 4 times a year, that's never, and we don't have the level of locals casinos in the UK that you do in America. It's not really a thing so much. And if I go up to London, it is very much for the day to gamble. But I do try and limit it. I really do. But no, I've never felt it slipping away from me. I'm quite... One thing that always saves me is if I'm up, as I've mentioned numerous times, what I would consider a relatively large amount of money, I will bank that money. I will not put it back in. My weakness, if I've got one, is chasing when I've maybe 600 or 700 down. Right, let's try and win this 600 or 700 back, But no, I've never felt it slipping away from me. And I'm thankful for that, really. I mean, same with drinking. I mean, I drink quite heavily a lot of the time, but I know I can switch it on and off. So yeah, I mean, again, that's another thing that it's the same temptation, isn't it? Really. Jan Paul JKP, she says, we've seen your beautiful backyard and your well-appointed music room. Now I'm curious about the front of your home, and I never tire of your boys, so please tell us more about them. Okay, yes, I'm going to tell you more about Ollie and William. Ollie is now coming up 8, William's now coming up 5 or 6. Ollie, we had, you may remember because this was on the vlog, we got him from a puppy. William we got from a breeder, but it ended up being a breeder. Really, it was a glorified dog farm. So we've always had a few slight issues with William, more of his toileting than anything else because of where he came from. And it is true, dogs learn how they're going to be in adulthood from their first probably 12 months. And if you don't have that 12 months grounded into them, there's always a slight overspill from that. But William's a sweetheart, absolute sweetheart. Wouldn't trade him for any other dog. So yeah, I've always wanted Basset hounds. I grew up, and I always said to my mum, I would have a Basset hound one day, and I would name him Ollie. And my mum always used to laugh and say, "Oh God, you keep saying Basset hounds," but I always said it from a young kid. And guess what? I made that dream happen. So that's it, really. And I did actually show the front of my house, actually. And if you go back to the Colin vlog on the very final one, if I remember, I think I showed it very briefly if you want to have a look, if you're that nosy. But yeah, I mean, Suzanne and I, we moved in together in 2013, October 2013. As I said, we've been together 15 years in total. We moved in 11 years ago now. So yeah, that's it really. And then, yeah, James Stanley, of all the long lost slot machines that have been discontinued, which would you love to bring back for a slot session? Sphinx 3D and Red Hot Fusion. Those two. That's it. Love both though. Sphinx 3D particularly. You may know, I went looking for it in Circus last trip. Couldn't find it anywhere. But apparently it is in Canada, I think, and someone said it was in Amsterdam. So it is around the world, but just not in Vegas, sadly. Okay, Shane and Sue. How you doing, Shane and Sue? Just about seen all of your playlists now. We're going in 7 weeks for the first time in 15 years. Wow, you must be excited. My question is, what have you found to be your best bet denomination stroke results? I think we're going to be low rollers, but want to try the $5 10 cents denomination. Cheers, mate. Can't wait for the next vlog to get us in the mood for Vegas, baby. Well, good luck for your trip. Yeah, I mean, that's incredible after 15 years. You'll see a lot of changes. Right, in terms, yeah, I'm actually quite dogged with my denominations. A lot of people don't like the 5-line games on $1 denomination. I don't mind it. In fact, Jules and I often say that we quite like it because, you know, if you get a full line and it's the 3 lines and the V that way and the V that way, you get a real good payout, and sometimes the more lines, the more diluted the pays are. So I don't mind it. So I like the $5, $1 denomination. I would always play the highest bet I could play at the highest denomination most of the time. That's the best thing I can say. I like, say, $5 at $1. I also, as I mentioned before, I like the 50 cent versus $5. Always hoping to hit it on the $5. I've had a lot of great wins on that 1 cent denomination. So yeah, that would be it. I tend to avoid, for some reason, I tend to avoid 2 cents games. I tend to avoid 5 cent a lot of the time, unless the 10 cent denomination is too high in terms of minimum bet. Someone else actually also was asking me, and I'm going to tie it in with this question, was asking me about the new Huff and Even More Puff slot. Am I looking forward to playing it? Now, I've watched an awful lot of YouTube videos on this game. And it would be safe to say that there's not been an upcoming game that I've been this excited about ever. But now that I've watched and analysed the game, I'm actually risking having a downer on it before I even start. Now, this is why. Hear me out here. And this has nothing to do with the game or how good the game is in itself. I think the 2 reels is great. You've got the gold buzzsaw. You've got on the regular buzzsaw, you've got the chance of the upgrade feature to get to the top reel. You've got the wolf that walks along the bottom of the screen for a random award. You've also got obviously, if you get to the top award, you've got double screens. So it's all great. All of that is great. The issue I have is, one, the minimum bet on dimes is $6, not $5. So they've upped the ante in terms of the minimum bet on these denominations. And 2, the fact that if you get a mansion award, it's now no longer a minimum of 10 times your bet. So, for example, on a $5 bet, you could guarantee yourself a minimum of a $50 win per mansion. Now, on a $6 bet on dimes, the minimum, I think, is $40. Now, you may say, well, that's not much different, but it is. It's a $6 bet, not a $5 bet, and it's $40 on a $6 bet, not $50 on a $5 bet. Plus, if you multiply up or you get a full screen of mansions, that's a massive difference every time you get a mansion. Now, I was watching one it was Vegas Low Roller. I don't often watch Vegas Low Roller, but he had a full screen of mansions, a double full screen of mansions on a $9 bet, and he won $4,000. Now I thought, a $9 bet on the best screen you could possibly get on that game, $4,000. I think that's quite tight, if I'm honest. You would expect, you're not going to do better than that screen. And it's a $9 bet for $4,000. So yeah, that's to me, I'm going to try it all out. But there's a temptation that I then go back to the Huff and More Puff, which I really like. But anyway, there you go. That's my thoughts on the new Huff and Even More Puff game, which is actually a good place to finish. I've done. There's a lot of. I can't see the exact time, but this is probably getting on for. It's over an hour and a half. So I'm going to leave you here. Thank you so much for 10 years of support. I will never, ever, ever take it for granted. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to like, subscribe, comment, send me nice messages on social media, be part of my ongoing Vegas journey. I really appreciate it. And I love bumping into people all over town. It's just great to see people that sometimes I know their names, and just put a face to the name is awesome. So no doubt this trip is going to be the same. But thank you for all of your support. Whether I'll make it to another 10 years, who knows? But at the moment, there's no thoughts of retiring from this. Well, certainly not until I hit a grand jackpot, at least. Anyway, so I hope you're looking forward to the new series. It will drop in the next day or two. Thank you for watching this, even if you had to dip in and out a few times. I don't know. Love you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.